Hi, welcome to Three Distinct Knocks. I'm David Riley,
I'm Nicholas Harvey.
and today we have with us Brother Ian Adams, Worshipful David Norton, and Brother Joe Boo, who are tattoo artists as well as Masons, and we're going to be talking about tattooing Masons, Masons with tattoos, Masonic tattoos, and Masons who tattoo. But before we talk about that, we're going to have our rant. And boy, am I ranting today. I am in full-on grumpy past master mode.
Yes!
I have observed on numerous occasions in Masonic groups on Facebook, on Reddit, and the like, a young man just raised to the third degree, showing off the ring his wife purchased for him, or which was his grandfather's and has been handed down to him. The first comment, and for some reason it's always the first comment, is not one congratulating him on being raised to the sublime degree or complimenting his beautiful ring. Instead, it's someone who believes the most important message to deliver is that he's wearing his ring with the points the wrong way. Likewise, I've seen young men post pictures of their new Masonic tattoo, so proud of their membership in our fraternity that they have etched it indelibly into their flesh. And someone then writes out an entire paragraph of the most esoteric content of the first degree to explain why tattoos are forbidden, never pausing to pay attention to their own violation of the very promise which they are writing out to expose to profane eyes. Let's deal with the specifics of these issues. There is no grand jurisdiction in the world, of which I am aware, that has a regulation specifying that rings are to be worn points in or points out. I, for one, am unalterably opposed to any such regulation. A man proud enough of his membership to invest in and wear a ring can wear it points in, points out, or through his nose for all I care. He is my brother, and I'm glad he's finding joy in our institution. Freemasons have been getting Masonic tattoos for hundreds of years. Indeed, when records of tattoos on sailors in the 18th century kept to help identify individuals are examined, Masonic tattoos are not terribly common, but they are there. Some sailors joined lodges and immediately got such tattoos in the hopes that should the worst occur and their body were to wash up on some strange shore, their brothers would ensure that even a stranger, identified as a brother Mason, now entirely destitute, would receive a dignified burial. We put our symbols on our buildings, on the outside, where they can be seen by anyone. We put them on our rings. I'm pretty sure that some of the complaints about Masonic tattoos have been typed by hands wearing rings with the very emblem about which they were complaining. Our symbols are explained to the initiated, but we've never hidden the symbol themselves from others. Indeed, in 1723, there was a Masonic procession in London in public in which many emblems of the craft were carried. It was covered in the newspapers of the day. My lodge has many members who have tattoos. Many have chosen to get Masonic tattoos. Some are simple square and compasses, others are far more complex. Some speak to the personal Masonic history of the individual, and others to the particular preferences of the brother. In every case, we're simply glad that a brother has felt so connected to our lodge and to Freemasonry that he wishes to make a permanent statement of his love for the craft. Indeed, it is love, believe it or not, that I wish to discuss today. I cannot imagine what it's like to sit in lodge with the sort of man who would tell a new brother he's wearing his ring improperly. The level of pettiness and the lack of awareness of the soul-draining impact of those words is simply stunning. It demonstrates a total lack of understanding of the most basic lesson of the level, and it is almost entirely irreconcilable with brotherly love. I cannot imagine what it is like to sit in lodge with a man who would violate his obligation just to pour cold water on the joy of a brother proudly showing off his new Masonic tattoo. That demonstrates a sort of blind legalism married to ignorance that is difficult to explain. In the New Testament, we are told to remove the log from our own eye before attempting to remove the mote from the eye of our brother. I would recommend this practice to those Masons inclined towards an overemphasis on the letter of the law, or who believe that the peculiar practices of their lodge or jurisdiction are universal in Freemasonry. Let's always start with love towards one another, sincerely wishing to join in celebrating with our brothers their joys, rather than working to convert them to miseries. Let's be less interested in trying to trip one another up with the letter of the law, and remember that the tenets of our profession as Masons are brotherly love, relief, and truth. If you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, you know I have a great deal of affection for my mother lodge. I was reminded of the reason for this at our last communication when I looked around the room at our collation following the meeting and found my brothers genuinely enjoying one another's company, laughing together, talking about their lives and about their families, and simply being glad to spend time with a brother. We'd done the work of the evening and done it very well indeed. And now it was time to breathe life into the words of our ritual by spending a little time together in celebration. Let's see more of this spirit in the way we treat one another, both online and off. And the next time it occurs to you that some brother has made some trifling error, instead of seeking to put him to death over it, why not cover it under a broad mantle of brotherly love and charity? So that's my rant about people complaining about Masonic tattoos.
So mote it be.
The three guests we have tonight are three examples of heavily tattooed guys in my lodge. Yeah, and I think they're heavily tattooed because they are also each extremely talented Masonic tattoo artists who happen to be Masons. Joe Boo, who works at Chameleon in Harvard Square, did my Masonic tattoo. Wait, how do I?
Just take it off.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the points are the wrong way around.
No,
I ruined your tattoo, David.
Dave Norton works at Pino Brothers.
Yup.
And he's a past master of my lodge, and as you've developed, I mean, each of you have this really unique style that's sort of like, I can tell when it's your work. Frequently, not always, but frequently I can spot like, oh, I know who did that. And Ian, I forget where you're at now.
He's with me.
Yeah,
I'm at Pino.
also at Pino's.
Yep.
And Ian Adams. Ian specializes in the unexpectedly vaguely creepy tattoo category.
I would say kind of a cute macabre.
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere between Edward Gorey and I don't know what.
Yeah, you really do bring Edward Gorey to mind when I look at. I've loved Edward Gorey since I discovered him my freshman year of college, and I have frequently thought that he would have liked your tattoo style.
I think I would have liked him. We would have liked each other personally. You know.
Yeah. Well, he was a freaky guy who lived alone in Maine, right?
No, he was actually down in the Cape, Truro.
Oh, he was in the Cape. Okay. Yeah. I just remember reading somewhere that people would occasionally go to his home and knock on the door. And if he was in a bad mood, he'd yell at them and throw things at them to get them off his porch. And if he was in a good mood, he'd invite them in and feed them tea and scones.
It's legit.
So let's talk about Masonic tattoos. What tattoos have you done for brothers that stand out in your memory? Why do you think guys want to get Masonic tattoos?
Can I go first?
Do it.
Yeah.
Well, my first Masonic tattoo, as to date, my only specifically Masonic tattoo that I wear, I got from Brother David. And it was because he was tattooing and I wanted to get it from a Brother Mason. You know, I kind of like, if you're going to get a specifically Masonic tattoo, it kind of adds weight to it to get it from someone who knows what they're tattooing on you.
Yeah.
And so it meant a lot, he's a member brother in my lodge and et cetera. And so, yeah, that, you can see it right there. Oh, square and compasses.
Ta-da.
And yeah, that's probably, the main reason I got my Masonic tattoo from another Mason, and I knew Dave's legit. So there we go.
Yeah, I think it does help if you're going to get a Masonic tattoo. One, it helps if the tattoo artist is a Mason because they'll understand what you're talking about.
Speaking code.
Like it helps translate. I'm working on a sleeve right now on my right arm, and the artist is a coworker of me and Ian's been. Who's not a Mason, so it's I'm kind of hand feeding him like, well, this has to be this way and here and here and here and here. So it's a lot easier. I think if you have your artist being a Mason just because of subject matter. It's like you don't have to over-explain anything. There's no potential of revealing anything that you don't want to reveal. It's more going in and saying like, yeah, I want the 4 cardinal virtues. It's like, okay, cool. We can figure that out. And I know what to go for. And other people would have to, do a little bit of extra work.
I like it.
I also think that if you get a tattoo from a Mason, the conversation while you're getting tattooed is going to be more interesting.
Oh, definitely.
I was scared to talk to Joe Boo when I was getting a tattoo. Like, he was so nice and comforting. And he's like, so what's up, man? I'm good. Fine. Did I move? I'm sorry. I don't want to move. He's like, dude, you're fine, man. I look over and he's like, da, 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 da. I'm like, dude. Like, it's like, oh yeah. This lodge, this and that. I'm like, cool. Let's just focus on the tattoo. It's okay. We don't have to talk. He's like, I've been doing this a while.
We're trained to deal with people flailing, passing out, vomiting, whatever.
Whatever. So
Joe Boo just slapped me every time if I flinched, he would just smack me as hard as he could.
You weren't that bad. You were doing all right. You were doing good.
That bad. Now he says that.
I have to be tattooed by Joe Boo. I got to get a tattoo from you.
Oh, dude. We'll do a trade in a second. We got to hang out. I was actually thinking I wanted to get a Tyler tattoo from you, Ann, because I saw the one you did on Hank, and I was like, I got to get a Tyler tattoo from Ian. That'd be awesome.
Dude, I will design one like right now.
Yeah. So we need like a little creeper Tyler guy with the sword. I'm like, it's got to go down.
As a matter of fact, Ian, you should actually make up the entire stations, like all of the officers.
It makes sense. Yeah, I'll be in shortly. We're gonna talk about this. This is gonna happen.
That's so done. It's
a no-brainer. I was like, okay. Yeah.
The bad news is that Joe Boo has a 18-month waiting list at this point.
No, it's only 7. It's a good number. Only 7. But I come in on my day off for that stuff. We'll make it work. That'll be fun.
That's we have a secret tattoo lodge for that one. Yeah.
Right. There's a tunnel that goes from Pinot Bros to Chameleon.
Yeah.
So you guys did a Tyler tattoo?
That was a past master. Ian has a line of you explain it, Ian. You're here.
All right. Yeah. Well, so I started doing these little they kind of look like little skeletal babies,
like Cupid doll skulls.
Yeah, and they're kind of like sort of a take on like an Edward Gorey type thing or something. And I did one that was a past master holding a trowel with a little top hat on and everything like that. And the mighty Reverend Hank Pierce,
handsome Hank.
He was like, the coolest guy I knew before I knew him and stuff like that. I used to see him hanging around in Boston and be like, that is the coolest guy I've ever seen. And then I found out he was a Mason. I was like, I want to be a Mason.
Nice. That's awesome. We're gonna have to get a picture of that and post it.
Oh yeah, I'll send it over to David.
Oh, it's awesome. It's
really good.
Yep.
Yeah, and the fact that he was like the first like cool tattoo Mason that I knew, and then it was like we're all kind of like, that's the lodge I want to be in, because it was open.
Did you guys ever hear I had a funny story with Hank a million years ago when I was young, going to punk shows. I didn't know Hank from anyone, except that he was the guy that had "Lust for Life" tattooed on his back real big. And like I was real young going to these shows, and I'm pretty confident Hank busted my nose. It was the first time I ever got my nose busted at a show. And I remember just being a big bloody mess, and it was a Slapshot show. It was a pretty exciting. We were all having a lot of fun. I wasn't bummed. I mean, I knew it was a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
But because of going to these shows and being into this music scene, it was sort of brought me on the path to becoming very interested in tattoos because people like Hank. And I didn't know, like years later when I met Hank at Lodge, that Hank was the crazy Lust for Life guy. Like I just was like, oh, it's Hank. He's in all the documentaries, or he's a cool dude. He's like an old hardcore guy or whatever. But he posted on the internet a young photo of him with that tattoo. I was like, dude, you're like the first dude ever busted my nose in like a show, and like and now you're one of the reasons why I got excited about tattoos, and like now here we are like full circle in Lodge together, hanging out, with all this heavy stuff, and he was like in real Hank fashion, he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I broke your nose back in the day, like started like blubbering like apologies at me for, he was like, I didn't mean it, and I was like, no, like it's cool, Hank, like I love you, dude, it's cool. I still thought you were Brad on the T ride home with my busted nose, He was so funny about it. So it was great to be like, in my mother lodge, I'm meeting all these wonderful people, and then I meet like the dude, I found out like maybe like a year and a half after knowing of him in Lodge that he was that guy, and I had no idea that he was that guy because he's all like, we're all older and we wear suits and stuff, and we're not running around in t-shirts or whatever or less, So it was a pretty funny homecoming event, sort of, that's when I really was like, yeah, Amicable is cool, man. Like all these old hardcore guys, everyone's covered in tattoos, and Hank busted my nose and didn't even know back then. It was good.
I love it. Any kind of Grand Lodge communication where there's anyone with tattoos, they'll just ask them if they're from Amicable.
Oh yeah.
Half of the time they're not. It's like, you from Amicable? What? Never mind.
When I went to a Scottish Rite reunion this a couple of years ago, and there was a guy who was heavily tattooed, and I went up and introduced myself, and I said, how many people have asked you if you're from Amicable Lodge? And he said, because it was breakfast at like 7 a.m. because the reunions start at a ridiculously early hour. And he said, no one? Why? And I said, at the end of the day, come and find me and let me know. Afterwards, he was like, why have 5 people stopped me and asked me if I'm in Amicable Lodge? Let me explain.
David, was that Jason Duggan?
It was.
He's also a tattooer.
Yeah. He was brand new to the Scottish Rite. I think he was taking his degrees that day.
Yeah, he and I actually went to college together.
Really?
Yeah. I've known him for a long time.
Yeah.
So have any of you done a Masonic tattoo that particularly stands out in your memory as being unique?
I think they're all pretty unique. I mean, if the tattoos are even the most simple square and compass, I feel like the experience of being able to tattoo a brother and have that, I think is unique enough. Tattooing people who have things in common with you is always fun. Tattooing other brothers is always special. Like a bunch of you guys are all in bands, right? So like when you tattoo rock and rollers or whatever, it's like, oh, cool. Like you play drums or you play guitar. So do I. I was in some bands. That's fun, and it just makes things more interesting and special. But I think anytime I get to tattoo a brother and tattoo Masonic stuff, it's like, hey, I already know, like, all right, this guy's not a jerk. That's cool. I haven't really tattooed any jerky Masons. They've all been really rad guys. Big surprise. Nope. But just to be able to like sort of talk a little bit about just the things that we get excited about, the symbolism, so much symbolism within the fraternity. Just remembering things about, going through the degree work and stuff. Just being able to have that experience, I think, is really always fun. It makes the tattoo, I think, a little less spicy, a little less stingy when you can just kind of yam on about all of these fun, interesting, intricate things that make Freemasonry so special for men. I think that in and of itself is great. I mean, there's always going to be rad art and stuff like that, but I think having that sort of level of conversation during the process is always a lot of fun for me, anyway.
Totally.
Totally.
I haven't done very many of the kind of hidden-esque tattoo that I'd like to. Like, I'd like to get the challenge of somebody coming in and saying like, "Oh, I want something to tattoo something that doesn't immediately scream Freemasonry." Be a fun challenge to do.
Right.
Instead of being kind of like, and I have nothing against, or I enjoy tattooing overtly Freemasonry imagery, but it'd be a fun, something fun, like to have the imagery stand on its own, which not a lot of people necessarily go for, because they it's like with the ring, it's like I'm wearing it because I'm proud of it.
Right.
I know I'm proud of it. Whereas, like with my own Masonic tattoos, they're less in your face. Like I have I have a square and compass on my thumb for grip. Where is it? There it is.
Yep.
For grip. But and that was actually done by tattoo friend and brother, Texas Bob, in Austin when I was guest spotting with him. We both traded grip, square, and compasses. But yeah, I think it's a lot of the times, when people are going to get tattoos for the fraternity or about the fraternity, it's very heavy-handed. Whereas the symbolism, it's all beautiful on its own. I'd love to get the challenge to have somebody come in and say, "I want you to do a Masonic tattoo that doesn't scream it in my face."
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not downplaying it. I'm saying it's like, let's make it even more interesting. Let's capture some of that secrecy and some of that mystery about it without saying like, tattoo.
When I used
right,
to
like a
do,
big neon sign tattoo, right? Yep.
When I used to do rock posters, lots of posters for bands, and they would just say, "Do whatever you want." I would sneak Masonic imagery in there. They'd be like, "Why has a guy got one shoe off and a blue flower on his lapel?" I'm like, "No reason."
He woke up tired, left early.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your signature also was super Masonic on all of those as well.
Yeah. The sideways eyeball. Yeah. With the square and compasses.
Yep.
So is most of the tattoos you guys do square and compasses?
I've got ones where it's like I've done everything from each pillar on, like, one pillar on one shin, one pillar on another. I've done stuff where it's been I've done the set of winding stairs with like a Eye of Providence above it with a tiled floor. And, those are fun. But like a lot of it is kind of like straightforward, kind of square and compasses, or another common one would be the hourglass's wings. But a lot of people want that, even knowing what it is too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing about tattooing is, like, a lot of the imagery that is very common to tattooing sort of rolls over into Freemasonry, like the hourglass with wings, and the skull and crossbones, the Tempus Fugit, Memento Mori, and lately more you've been seeing things that were laterally Masonic, like what is it, the hands clasped.
Oh yeah.
And the three chain links, which is actually at the Oddfellows.
Yep.
But things like that were like, either laterally Masonic. But I mean, when you're looking at this kind of symbolism, it speaks to a variety of different things, you know, and what is it in Duncan's ritual? It says it's a poor symbol that has just one meaning.
Huh.
Right.
So you know, you can actually take it things a million different ways. I find a lot of Masons will focus on one particular aspect of symbolism that moved them early on in their career as a Mason. Like it was,
That's a lot with everything too, you know, especially in tattooing, where it's like people will gravitate and they'll grasp something that was particularly meaningful and want to, you know, solidify it in a way.
Yeah.
So it actually speaks to the exact topic very well.
yeah, and it's all, you know, in my opinion, tattooing is about self-expression. It's about making what's in you an outward statement, or a salami, as it were.
I don't think you were here, Joe, but it was a meme that and my first tattoo was a quote from Dante's Inferno, contemplating, you know, existence of man and why he wants to do bad things. And then my 30th tattoo is a salami, and it just means a salami.
Excellent.
It is so incredibly true.
It is. It is.
Hey, me, sometimes all you want to express is that's a really cool looking salami.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
You nailed it.
expression.
I do think that tattooing is unique in that, well, I mean, I suppose it's very like the way medieval artists were working, because they had patrons that they had to please, and they had to find a way to express their art within the boundaries of what they were doing for a patron. Which, you know, Michelangelo was notoriously bad at. He got fired all the time for not actually managing to do that.
Yeah.
But you're dealing with a customer who's there, who has very definite ideas about what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably they're smart, at least some of your customers, and have chosen you because
Presumably.
your style matches something that they like, you know, and they're trying to get you, they're trying to find something in the way that you do it that meets their vision for the tattoo that they have. But I don't think a lot of artists work in that kind of as close a collaboration with someone else. You know, it
gets closer, and it gets closer than that, because, you know, I was trying to explain this to clients. If you like, we're making art, we're making tattoos and all that stuff, you know, and everyone's like, wow, that's really great, and it's like, yeah, man, but like all day long we are in such close proximity to humans, right? Like if you hop on the bus or the T here in Boston, and you hop on the bus and there's like, you know, one seat left between two people, right? Are you gonna like wedge into that seat, or are you gonna stand and hold the bar, right? And they're like, oh, I'll probably just stand. And I'm like, yeah, man, like I every day for like the almost 20 years have been like leaning over, touching humans like all day long, you know. And it's like, you know, it's a very physical thing, you know, like the idea of like personal space during the tattoo, like, you know, when you meet old burnt out tattooers and they're cranky and they hate everybody, because they've been humping over people all their life, you know, like, and some of these people are real jerks, you know, some of their hygiene might be like really nasty, you know. So it's like, you're not only trying to get into their headspace, and try to help them, you know, with this whole self-expression thing, or, you know, get this goal, but like you're physically touching them, you know, for hours on end, you know. I mean, some of these cats, you know, you'll work on them for months or even on and off for years and stuff. And you might just be so skeeved out by these folks, you know, and you're just trying to make nice tattoos happen. There's a lot of, it's a bit of a challenge, you know. I mean, if someone was just like, yo, man, make me a painting, I'd be like, cool, you're a crud, you're a creep. I'm gonna do my painting in my apartment miles away from you, you know. But like with tattoos, it's like, you're a crud and a creep, and I have to touch you for hours. In a small little room, you know. It's like, it's a lot of stuff that kids don't, I don't think they ever think about, you know. And they're like, oh, I'm just gonna like become a tattooer and it's gonna be cool, and they think about this lifestyle thing or something. It's a lot, it can be pretty heavy trip sometimes.
Well, one of the things that I think relates to Freemasonry to a degree, just what you're talking about there, Joe, is you have to, like, if someone is, I mean, of course, if someone's, throwing racial slurs around or something like that, you'll say, hey, stop it, shut up. But you got to kind of keep your politics and your overall stuff to yourself, because it's not fair. You're hurting someone. As a tattooer, you're the one who's like, the very first tattoo I got was in London, and the tattooer is a guy named Bugs, the now world famous Bugs of London. And he, when he tattooed me, he was saying, the Pakistanis, they come in here, they say they are French. They're not French. And like throwing this kind of racist stuff at me, and I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about, first of all. And he's like, and he goes, and then they try to argue the price, and I give them the pain. It's like kind of threatening me with the tattoo machine as he's saying this. I'm like 18, skinny kid, and I was like, okay, if I ever become a tattooer, I'm never gonna do that.
Right.
There's an intimidation factor that you could very easily pull off if you wanted to be that kind of a jerk. But hey, we're Freemason tattooers. We don't do that.
Trying not to.
Trying not to, right?
Yeah. I also, there's, in addition to the physical contact, you're also trapped in a room with the person for hours on end with limited forms of entertainment available to either of you other than talking. Right. So, I joked when I got my tattoos from Joe Boo that it was, David psychotherapy time with Joe.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best.
We are a form of therapy. Or I should say a form of therapist.
Yeah. You and bartenders.
Oh man, I had a couple clients actually stop going to therapy because they told me they were telling me the same garbage, and I cost less money, and they walked out with rad tattoos. And I was like, I'm not like equipped to handle your weird mental stuff, but they were like, no, you give me pretty much the same advice, and I was like,
so
charge more money, I guess.
I had a grief counselor give my card to people.
That's like, so. Do you guys give advice back to people, or is it more like people just want to vent and
a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think because tattoos have become part of this sort of accepted grieving process now, that which is it's one of those things where I'm like, don't get someone flowers after they're dead. Get them flowers while they're alive. They'll appreciate it more.
Yep.
And if I can say one thing and put the debate to bed forever, getting ashes put into ink for your tattoo is potentially carcinogenic. A good friend she runs a crematorium, a pet crematorium, and the amount of shit that ends up in those ashes, you don't want anywhere near your fucking system.
Hey. Brothers, I have a family emergency happening right now. I just heard from outside. I have to run.
Okay.
All right.
But I love you guys. Thank you. It's so great seeing you on a Sunday afternoon.
Go.
Go. We'll catch up with you later, Ian.
All right. I love you guys.
Love you. You too, brother.
Ian. Yeah. It's also the idea of putting ashes into ink to making a tattoo, that just like the cremation process is not, it's not one without contamination.
Completely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I had no idea about, which she also informed me, is that cancer doesn't burn up; it ends up in the ashes. So tumors are actually tougher to burn than fucking muscle. Like they are, like the residue of a tumor will remain in the ashes. So I mean, I've always been against it. I
always thought that was weird.
Yeah, it's gross. I mean, I've also had friends who would be like, "Oh yeah, totally," and they'd get the ashes and they just throw the ashes away.
Yeah.
Basically, the people would think
like-
that they're getting it. Yeah,
Right. Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, like the whole commemoration and like memoriam of stuff like that is just. I figured I'd bring it up and be like, "Yep, that is totally bad. Do not ever do it. Do not ever get it done. If you do,
Ugh.
good
I'm not
potential."
critical of anyone who wants to do a tattoo as part of their grieving process because whatever helps you get through the day,
Right.
whatever.
Sure.
But for myself, I want to get tattoos. I have 2 tattoos. I'm not like y'all, but I'm not down
You're on
to
your
the
way.
salami.
Yeah,
I'm not down to the salami yet.
plenty of time.
But I want to get things that are things that I celebrate, things that I'm like that when I see them, they make me happy and feel joyous. That's the reason I have the Masonic tattoo I have is the bodies that I presided over, because I'm extremely proud of being the 135th past master of Amicable Lodge. And I'm even more proud that there was a 136th master, if you see what I mean.
That's all we can hope for.
Yeah, exactly. I just screwed up my year. And then I have St. Michael. I've told people all sorts of stories why I have St. Michael, but the truth is I have him because all the archangels are named for qualities of God. So Gabriel is strength of God. Raphael is breath of God. Michael is the only one whose name is a question, Michael, and it means who is like God. And it doesn't mean Michael who is like God. In the Hebrew grammatical structure, it's clearly a question. Who is like God? And the answer is nobody, right? But who is like God? And it's a reminder to me that God likes questions as much as he likes answers, perhaps even more, because Michael is the captain of the hosts of heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
So good questions better. A good question is better than a bad answer. And that makes me happy.
Yeah.
That I find comfort in that.
Yep.
I don't understand people who get tattoos of things that make them sad.
Yeah, I think there's, the thing about tattooing, and I think there's a lot of parallels with tattoos and Freemasonry in that you can't put the whole thing in a tight little box and be like, this is it. As far as like, yeah, there's no dogma in Freemasonry, but there's also really no dogma in tattooing. Like anyone can get anything for any goofy reason or lack of reason tattooed on them. And it's still like beautiful and no one can say like, that's wrong or that's, right per se.
Oh, right.
I try to tell the kids like, if you're going to get a tattoo, one of at least 3 things should happen. Just one of them. If one of them happens, you get a pretty good tattoo. One would be like, you have a beautiful tattoo. 2, it has a beautiful meaning. 3, you had a beautiful experience, right? So as long as like one of those 3 things happens, you probably got a winner. If none of those 3 things happened, you probably goofed up. But people
You probably got an anti-dick tattoo.
Yeah. But I mean,
we all know who that is.
Hi, Duggan.
He did
But
get
it's just the thing. Like people could just get a tattoo because it's beautiful, or they could get a heavy meaning tattoo. But I think when a lot of kids, because of the TV shows, they feel like they have to go in and get tattoos only if it's terribly meaningful, and it's almost like I try to tell them it's like only eating cake when it's your birthday. Like why would you wait once a year to eat cake? Cake's awesome. Like eat cake every flipping day. Like flip out on the cake. Don't get diabetes. Take care of yourself, but. Why would you just be like cake only for birthdays? Scrambled eggs only for breakfast. It's like kind of silly. Tattoos can be anything, and you can get them for any reasons. And I think people need to sort of like be all right with that. A lot of people get stuff that I wouldn't get, and that's just a matter of preference. Like I wouldn't wear a particular outfit. I wouldn't go rock an orange tuxedo, but someone would. It's just a preference thing, I think.
Well. Scrambled eggs for lunch, or that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
or scrambled eggs.
I was at a wedding that the dinner was breakfast.
Mm.
It was
Dinner
pretty.
for breakfast. So
Yep.
are the guys that you're giving Masonic tattoos for, are they younger or older? Are they certain?
Mm.
I've tattooed everything from, I mean, let's see. The oldest Mason would probably be in his 60s.
Mhm.
That was his first tattoo.
Nice.
And then, but I'd say probably the majority is younger.
Mhm.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
Same thing. I would say like younger dudes, maybe like mid-20s. Oldest dude, yeah, probably in the 60s and stuff. And most of whom definitely were they found me because they knew I was a Freemason. Once they found out that I was a Freemason, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy." You know, they didn't come in all blind. They all came in knowing I was part of amicable and stuff.
Has anybody wanted a Masonic tattoo on their face?
I've seen it, never done it.
Yeah, same thing. Seen it, never done it. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering you both you're tattoo artists, but you're also artists in other mediums. So just as artists generally, do you find that working with the symbols of the craft increases your understanding and attachment to them? Do you find that, when you're tattooing a particular set of symbols, do you find yourself thinking about it more? And
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think that's just a thing, like especially because like with any tattoo, you don't want to like mess it up, right? So there's this hyper focus thing that happens, and then if it's symbolism or that I'm not terribly familiar with, like if it's like, oh, I'm like loosely, familiar with this stuff, it gives me a great excuse to really contemplate and think about those things and their meanings and how they might apply to me. I mean, I think it's just a thing that we do anytime we run into anything, because I'm like, oh, geez, this guy's getting, I don't know, he's getting, like the boat and the anchor. Like, I think I need to get the boat, give that another kind of read over, just to like freshen up on a thing. Anything is just, kind of like pops back into your head because we're constantly thinking about everything all the time, right? Like any good tattooer is just like their idea machines. And so your brain's almost like, you got a gerbil in the spinning wheel and stuff. So like when someone comes in and they force you to stop that and think about something different, and more importantly, maybe something that you're excited to think about for a change, like any of the Masonic symbolism, it's a great excuse to stop the gerbil and get on to, the symbolisms and get in on that. I think.
Yeah, I just think Freemasonry uses such a graphic language to try to communicate. And I'm a language person, so I love the language of the ritual and the sound of the language of the ritual, and there's a rhythm to it that really appeals to me. I'm not, I joke that everybody else in Amicable is talented, and someday I'm going to start blackballing the musicians and the artists because I want more untalented guys like me in the lodge. But I don't have that visual the competency that you all have developed through practice and effort, and so I'm very curious about how your understanding of the symbolism is affected by your understanding as an artist.
Oof.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Over to you, Norton.
Well, I don't know.
See.
Well, there's no. I don't know when each tattoo that you're about to do, however small, you kind of have to give it the power that it demands. So when the subject matter is something that you kind of hold dear already, it gives it a little bit more of a push for you to kind of connect to it more. I think it definitely kind of solidifies more of an understanding at points where, here's a good one, where you assemble certain aspects of imagery that we have in the craft, and you say for example, like I have on my arm, I have a sword pointed at a naked heart but also there's a book of constitutions under the sword, so it's both symbols themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding it, but with that, it kind of took a little bit more understanding of how I can communicate the meaning behind these two things as a single image.
Right.
So that kind of, with that, you really have to dive a little deeper to grasp that understanding a bit more. So singular images, it's not necessarily as in depth, but when you're sourcing more, you kind of really need to really know what you're dealing with, like the subject matter, or you can potentially just have a fucking train wreck and like have conflicting or contradictory things, or it can appear contradictory, or it can say something that, well, the worst thing is having something put on and having it say something that you don't want it to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I think absolutely understanding the symbols more, or having a better understanding as you go through the process is absolutely 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It just seems to me that as a visual artist, you develop sort of a different level of familiarity with the symbol than someone who doesn't have that background. You have I have a 2D understanding of the physicality of the symbol, and you have a 3D understanding of it in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that there's an intimacy to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What I didn't realize is that when I got the square and compass on my calf, that it went on my left foot, my left calf, and I was like, someone pointed it out to me, and I'm like, yeah, I totally meant it to be.
I did that.
Yeah, I was like, Joe did that on purpose. Thank you.
I think we lucked out.
Very cool.
You laid down on the table the right way, Nick.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But yeah, I think you're right. One thing I always struggle to figure out how many Masonic things I should wear at one time, because I distinctly remember I was like, hey Joe, like I only want a square and compass like this big on my calf, and he's like, nope.
Good job.
And so he brings me the stencil, and the stencil's like, I was like, my calf that's on my leg, my back side. I don't know if you know where the calf is.
Are you confused?
Yeah. And I was like, this isn't going well. He's like, no. And you put it on. I'm like, that's really big. He's like, you don't want a small one, trust me. And then you like printed out the small one. I'm like, yeah, that looks kind of silly. He's like, yep. I was like, oh, you probably go through this a few times. So, but it's nice wearing it. Everybody sees it. I was at Disney World and some guy ran up to me. He goes, I saw your tattoo. I was running from all the way over there. Hey, I was like, hello.
Hi.
So it's really cool. It reminds you. Then you got to remember, you're like, okay, so if I wear my ring, that'll get like everybody in front of me, and my calf is showing, so that's everybody behind me. So I shouldn't wear a hat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have people on a regular basis. Well, Mason spot the. In fact, I went to the doctor recently, and he saw the Masonic tattoo, and he was like, "Oh, are you a Mason?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "I'm not, but I have a very good friend who's a Mason. You guys do great work. You should be very proud of yourselves." He was familiar with the Masonic medical equipment loan program.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, "You got, that's such a wonderful thing that you do for people, blah, 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 blah." And that was nice. But I also have people I have had people literally run after me to stop me, to ask me about the St. Michael tattoo. And to be like, "Where did you get that?" And I'm like, and I have a standard answer, which I have to give because Jobu has told me that I have to give this answer, which is I got it from Jobu at Chameleon Tattoo in Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He is very expensive and extremely mean.
Perfect. Yep. Mean and expensive tattooing. Yep.
And they're always like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, man." Oh. The reason I have it on my arm is because it cost me an arm to get it.
Ah,
Oh,
People are all, I love that people see the artwork that, like, I love that I have artwork that people are chasing down to see that is mine in a way that nothing else ever will be. You know what I mean? Because it's in me.
hmm
And
it's
I
walking
do
around with
think-
you everywhere you go.
Yeah, I do think that I'm gonna I've joked about this for years that my plan is to have my tattoos cut out and preserved by that company in the Netherlands that preserves human skin. And then I'm going to donate them to Amicable Lodge so that I can be recorded as present but not voting at all future meetings of the lodge.
oh, terrible.
I think that's a great idea.
You know,
It's-
I think the Square and Compass.
Building anyway.
Yeah, and that no one's debating that at all. So I think the hard thing is that I think everybody's first tattoo is a square and compass. Like overwhelming majority of people. I think the hard part is picking like a second Masonic tattoo.
Mhm. Well, that would be like what David was talking about, just trying to find like, what there's, how do you do something that might be a little more subtle, or that like, other like real nerdy Masons would be like, I see you, brother, kind of stuff. But like, the average civilian, they see a square and compass and they're like, oh, that guy's a weirdo, he's probably one of those guys. But having stuff that you'd have to really, you'd have to get past the Tyler to know about, that's exciting stuff. That's one of the reasons why I don't even have a Masonic tattoo yet, because I can't pick, until I saw Hank. So I was like, yeah, I should probably get something from Ian because he's bananas and his little skull guys are awesome.
Totally.
But I could get covered in Masonic stuff because it's all awesome. But I have the hardest time picking stuff out. So many awesome options.
Candidates make fun of me when I'm doing candidate education because when they take the first degree, I say, "Oh, the first degree is my favorite degree," because, and then they get to the second degree, and I'm like, "Oh, guys, the second degree is my favorite degree because," and then they get to the third degree, and I'm like, "Oh, guys, the third degree is my favorite."
This one's special. Yep.
It's like asking me to choose from among my children. I just can't. You can't, or in my case, my dogs. But
I only have one dog.
I can't pick a but I've had over the course of my life many dogs. Because unfortunately dogs don't last as long as people. But because they're better, so they get to go to heaven sooner. But the asking me to choose one Masonic emblem that's the reason I just got the past presiding officer stuff, is because I picked a category of thing. And then that limited it enough that I could pick what I wanted, right? But if you were just like, get a Masonic tattoo, I do what I did for years before I actually got a tattoo, which is every couple of days I'd be like, ooh, that would be really cool. Ooh, that would be really cool. And unfortunately, there's like, even with me, I'm a fat guy, but there's only so much skin.
Yep.
I would have to gain even more weight to fit it all.
Perhaps. But,
I just got this. Go ahead.
We've seen like Billy Saunders' arm, man. Like that guy's got. I don't know what he doesn't have on him. Like Brother Saunders, I mean, he rolled up his sleeve all the way up, one night, and I was tripping out on that. That guy's got. That's an amazing feat of tattoo wizardry. That guy.
Well, and especially when you find out how he got it, which is that it was in stages and it wasn't necessarily planned out the way it turned out.
Right.
Which is a real testimony to the to the tattoo artist who worked with him and to Billy's ability to like think things through and work with somebody like that. I think that was awesome. And it turns out, I mean, it looks great, I think.
Yeah,
that could have been
together really well.
Yeah, that could have been a real hash, but it turned out beautifully.
Yeah, it could have looked like a big bag of Skittles or something. Like sometimes that's what it goes down. And you throw, 10 pounds into a 5-pound Skittle bomb thing. Like, what I'm getting at. But yeah, so it can get a real train wrecky fast, but that's all laid out well. I think compositionally, whoever stacked all that stuff up, and a lot of that stuff it pieced together like Legos, man. It just came out nice.
It was Vander Berg did it.
Vander Berg did all that?
Yeah.
I missed that guy. He should be on this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have contact information for him currently, but yeah. I mean, I have a mailing address, but that's it.
Yeah.
Bob Vander Berg is another member of our lodge who he treasonously moved to Hawaii.
Sunshine, fair weather, beaches,
surfing. Yeah. What a jerk. He
Clearly.
should be here suffering with the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, I've heard you. When you said getting past the Tyler, I immediately got all these memories of the amount of times David has told the story.
Oh, geez.
Oh, I know.
Oh, God.
My favorite story.
It gets me every time. And every single time he's told it, whoever he's telling it to is always like,
yep.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought I was fired from the Masons. I didn't know. I was like, man, there was a moment I thought that it was like a weird test. I was like, is this like, like some weird new guy rookie test? Like, they throw like some like hyper cranky dude, like trying to barge in during, the boys are at the altar. And I'm like, this is a weird test. Like, someone's going to be like another dude, like is going to pop up out of one of the closets there and be like, you did good. I had no idea. But when when all that went down, man, I was just convinced. I was like, they're going to fire me. Like, I'm going to go to work the next day. I'm like, oh, how was being a Freemason last night? I'm like, I got fired. I screwed it all up. I was so freaked out.
For everyone that has no idea what's going on, why don't you tell us the short?
Oh man. I think I wasn't a Mason very long. I don't know, maybe within like my first year or so, tops. And I was asked to be the Tyler, and I was all excited. Like I had the sword, and I was like, all right. And they're just like, yeah, all you got to do is just keep everyone out. You get the knocks, and it wasn't like third degree work. I didn't have to say anything. I just had to keep people out. And they're like, all right, we're doing, I think, like first degree tonight. Don't let anyone in. I was like, no one. They're like, no one. Once this is the thing, that's it.
It was the obligation that it happened. So
yeah, exactly.
Not
so.
Door.
Yeah, man. I'm hanging out by the door, and this dude rolls in. He's top hat, all kinds of gear on. Like I didn't know what, he was clearly like a big deal. Like he was more decked out than any of the guys. I was like, this is weird, and he wanted me to let him in, and so he could tell JR to move his car. Like the dude was promised a fancy parking spot or something. I mean, yeah, so we're in downtown, Cambridge, Porter Square, or whatever. Parking is a joke, but like this dude wanted me to like somehow tell JR he had to move his car so he could park someplace. And I was like, I can't do that, man. Like and I peeked in and I was like, yeah, the boys were all like kneeling around the altar. Like, I can't do anything right now for you. Like, you got to wait. And he's like, I can't wait. You got to go in there right now. And you got to tell JR to move the car. And I was like, dude, like, I can't do that, brother. Like, I don't even know if I was even calling him brother. I was like so green. I was just like, dude, guy, whatever. Like, even weird punk guy slang at him. I not terribly professional most of the time. And he's like, do you know who I am? Like, and he rambled off some fancy term that I blacked out because I was in shock, I think. And I was like, dude, I'm the Tyler, man. Like, you're not getting it.
It's the correct Masonic answer.
Yeah, I felt like Gandalf, like you shall not pass, for a hot second. But I mean, I was literally like in my head, I was like waiting for someone to come up and be like, yeah, it was a test, you passed. Or, I was like, if that doesn't happen real soon, or if this dude doesn't get out of my face, I want to fucking sock him in the face because he was really trying, like he made a move towards the door and I didn't know if he was going to try to open it, but he just did the peek hole and peeked in and you saw what I was talking about. He took a step back and I was like ready to just, I don't know, tackle the dude or whatever. Like, this dude just can't get through the door. Like,
you stab him with the pointy end, Joe.
He got cranky and ran off. And then, yeah, I was convinced I was fired after that. and then
So-
everyone would give me high fives and stuff. It was nuts.
And then the next year when I was master, I appointed Joe Booth the Tyler because he had done such an excellent job as a fill-in Tyler that I was like, I want that particular guy to have to walk past him a couple of more times.
I was so bummed though. When David asked me to be Tyler, I was like, David, I want to be like the Tyler. I want to be on the inside when you're in the East, man. Like I love everyone in the lodge loves David. If you haven't figured that out yet, he might not have any artistic talent or whatever he's talking about, but he's probably the most loved guy there. And so I was so excited when he was going to be in the East. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an awesome year. He's going to be in the East. And he's like, yeah, man, it's going to be an awesome year. I'm going to be in the East. I said, yeah, all right. You're going to be on the other side of the door with the sword, right? And I was like,
Oh, Joe.
I love you, dude. Yeah, okay, and yeah, and I mean I didn't miss a single meeting. I think with the exception of January when I'm in Japan. But dude, I'm not lying, man. Every meeting, if I wasn't telling people to beat it or rolling through the other door or whatever, I had my ear up against that door. And I think that year, so much of the lectures and the work, like when you have to sit by the door and really listen, it really absorbs in your brain. Like, because you're hyper focusing, you're like, what did he say? So I think anyone who hasn't been a Tyler yet should do it. Like if there's any new rookie dudes watching this or listening, and they're like, oh, I don't think I want to be a Tyler. That's like a rap job. Like, no, you should totally do it and really try to absorb as much as you can from outside the door. Really hyper focus on all that stuff. You pick up so much more, I think, being on the other side of the door, just trying to hear stuff, than just sitting in there and taking it all kind of for granted. But I enjoyed being out in the door, and I could understand why some brothers have spent years on the other side of the door. But I do enjoy being on the inside nowadays.
The Tyler is the only officer in the lodge that the ritual forces you to check to make sure he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it's the Tyler that makes the lodge possible. Without having that door secured, we're not a lodge.
Right.
It's any idiot can wander in. We only want our idiots to wander in.
I love our idiots. They're the best idiots.
Well, guys, I really enjoy talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you, but I especially enjoy talking to you about this stuff. You're awesome. You're incredibly talented. You have no idea how much respect I have for what you do. Not just as tattoo artists, but as artists in general, and as Masons. And I love you both, and Ian as well. I am enormously biased towards the Amicable Lodge, and the reason I am is because guys like you are part of it.
Oh, Dave.
Oh, buddy, thank you.
I'm blushing over here. I'm feeling all warm and stuff.
So, Nick, do you have our outro ready to go?
No.
That's cool.
Neither do I. So how are we going to solve that?
I'm going to solve it. Hang on.
All right.
Because for the record, whoever does the intro does the outro.
Oh.
See, I was trying to divide it up.
That's not a thing.
You can't divide and letter the outro. Dad jokes, man. I got 2 kids. I'm here all night.
Well, from the bottom of my heart, we want to thank you guys for joining us on this episode. Everything we've said is our own opinion on any lodge, Grand Lodge, or other affiliate Masonic body. We'd like to thank our Patreons, who include Charles Ward, Bill Strutner, Adam Roth, Amicable Lodge, Jacob Slavic, Arthur Schlottel, Patrick Harvey, Christopher Patty, Masonic Revival, Awesome Ties, Fossil Glove, use code 3DK for 10% off. Aaron Sherman, Robert Patterson, Lou DeManu, David Vogel, Michael Hammerbrick, and our newest guy, David Westover.
Hey, thank you, David Westover.
Thank you. He gets to have his own episode now because he joined that level of Patreon as soon as he responds to our emails.
I think he's running away.
I think he's going to be like Arthur.
I didn't want an episode. I just wanted to be nice to you guys.
That's fine. I think he's going to be like Arthur. He's going to be some random guy that supports us and we never get in touch with him no matter how hard we try. On behalf of everybody, thank you guys for coming out and telling us your stories about Masonic tattoos and tattooing Masons and Masons who tattoo.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good night.
Bye. See you at lunch.
Right on. See you.
Have a good night, guys. Bye.
Right on. Cheers.
Thanks.